Some legends are built on truth. Others are built on desire. El Dorado is one of the most dangerous myths ever told, a city of gold that convinced men to abandon everything in its pursuit. But what if El Dorado was never a place meant to be found, but a warning disguised as a promise? Tonight, we uncover the real story behind the golden legend that reshaped history. A legend so powerful it erased reason, compassion, and restraint, replacing them with pure obsession. For centuries, men crossed oceans, hacked through jungles, and followed rivers that never seemed to end, convinced that somewhere just ahead, salvation waited in the form of gold. They believed El Dorado would justify every hardship, excuse every crime, and reward every betrayal. And in chasing it, they left behind ruins far more real than the city they never found. The story of El Dorado doesn't begin with conquest or greed. It begins quietly, long before European ships reached the Americas in the highlands of what is now Colombia. There lived the Muisca people, a civilization defined not by empire, but by balance. They cultivated crops suited to the mountains, built trade networks, and developed sophisticated systems of law, astronomy, and religion. Their society was ordered and deliberate, guided by ritual and respect for forces beyond human control. To the Muisca, the natural world wasn't something to dominate, but something to negotiate with. And gold, the metal that would later destroy them, held no monetary value at all. Gold was sacred. It wasn't wealth. It wasn't power. It was a bridge between the human and the divine. When a new ruler, known as the Zipa, ascended to power, his authority was confirmed through a ritual designed to strip away ego, not inflate it. His body was coated in resin and then dusted with fine gold powder until he shimmered in the light, transformed into a living symbol of divine favor. He was placed on a raft and taken to the center of Lake Guadavida, a lake believed to be sacred. As priests chanted and the people watched in silence, the golden ruler plunged into the water, washing the gold from his body. Emeralds and gold offerings were thrown into the lake as gifts to the gods, never meant to be retrieved. This ruler was called El Dorado, the Golden One. That was the entire truth. No golden city, no hidden empire, no streets paved with treasure. But when Spanish conquistadors arrived in the early 16th century, the truth was reshaped by the minds that received it. These men came from a world defined by scarcity, hierarchy, and violence. Europe was fractured by endless wars, religious conflict, and rigid class systems. Gold and silver weren't sacred, they were survival. Wealth meant power, and power meant safety. When the Spaniards heard of a man covered in gold, they didn't hear ritual or symbolism. They heard excess, and excess demanded an explanation. If one man could be coated in gold, then surely his people possessed more. If his people possessed more, there had to be mines. If there were mines, there had to be cities. And if there were cities, there had to be an empire waiting to be claimed. A ritual became a rumor became a destination became destiny. El Dorado stopped being a man and became a place. Then it became a city. Then it became a kingdom hidden beyond the edges of the known world. Each retelling added new details. Temples glittered brighter. Streets gleamed with gold. Rulers dined from golden plates. The city grew larger and richer with every failure to find it. European cartographers, working with fragments of secondhand stories, placed El Dorado on maps with confidence. Once something appears on a map, it becomes real enough to die for. And men did. Expeditions poured into South America, led by conquistadors, mercenaries, and fortune-seekers who believed paradise lay just beyond the next river. They entered environments they couldn't understand or survive. The jungle devoured supplies and sanity alike. Humidity rotted weapons. Insects spread disease. Rivers twisted endlessly, mocking progress. Indigenous guides were forced forward, beaten for answers they didn't have, and killed when the city failed to appear. Every failure only strengthened their belief. They were always just one step too far away. In 1541, Gonzalo Pizarro led one of the most infamous searches for El Dorado, marching eastward from Quito with hundreds of Spanish soldiers and thousands of indigenous laborers. They carried dreams of unimaginable wealth. What they found instead was starvation. Food ran out, horses collapsed and were butchered. Men weakened, fell behind, and disappeared into the forest. Discipline collapsed into desperation. When Pizarro sent Francisco de Orellana downriver to search for food, Orellana never returned. Instead, he continued onward, drifting deeper into the unknown, eventually becoming the first European to travel the entire length of the Amazon River. El Dorado was not found, but the cost of searching for it was undeniable. Each failed expedition just pushed the legend farther away. El Dorado became unreachable by design. By the late 16th century, it evolved again. Now it was said to be a city called Manoa, located on the shores of a vast inland sea known as Lake Parime. This version of the legend was so convincing that Lake Parime appeared on European maps for more than 100 years. Explorers planned routes toward it. Funding was approved, lives were committed, belief replaced evidence entirely. The search for El Dorado didn't just destroy bodies. It destroyed minds. One of the most chilling examples was Lope de Aguirre. His expedition descended into madness as paranoia replaced loyalty. Aguirre murdered his commanders, executed dissenters, and declared war on the Spanish crown itself. He signed his letters the wrath of God. His journey into the jungle mirrored his descent into tyranny and delusion. By the time he was captured and executed, El Dorado had proven something terrifying. It didn't need to exist to consume everything around it. The legend even spread beyond Spain. Sir Walter Raleigh, one of England's most famous figures, became obsessed with El Dorado. He believed that finding it would elevate England above all rival empires. In 1595, he led an expedition into the jungles of Guyana, chasing rumors and half-truths. He returned without gold but refused to abandon the myth. He wrote elaborate accounts insisting the city existed just beyond reach. His obsession followed him until his execution years later. El Dorado claimed him as well. So why did the legend endure for centuries? Because El Dorado was never really about gold. It was about escape. It was about entitlement disguised as destiny. It was about the belief that greatness could be seized rather than earned. Europe was a world of limits. Birth defined opportunity. Class defined fate. The New World promised reinvention. El Dorado promised instant transformation. No patience, no humility. No moral reckoning. Just conquest rewarded with absolution. The myth told men that suffering was temporary and reward was guaranteed, as long as they kept moving forward. El Dorado also served a darker purpose. It justified conquest. If infinite wealth lay hidden somewhere in the jungle, then any atrocity committed in its pursuit could be excused. Indigenous civilizations were enslaved, tortured, and annihilated based on rumors extracted under violence. Entire cultures vanished not because they possessed gold, but because Europeans believed they must be hiding it. The cruelest irony is that the Muisca people, the source of the legend, were destroyed by it. Spanish colonizers drained Lake Guatavita again and again, cutting into its sacred banks in desperate attempts to uncover treasure. Gold artifacts were recovered, but never enough. The lake was permanently scarred. The culture that created the ritual was dismantled. The myth devoured its creators. Modern archaeology confirms what the Muisca always knew. El Dorado was never a city, it was a ceremony, a lesson in humility, not excess. The gold was meant to disappear beneath the water, not accumulate in human hands. Power, in the Muisca worldview, was borrowed from the divine and could be taken away as easily as it was granted. Yet the question still lingers: what if something remains hidden? Recent discoveries using LiDAR technology have revealed vast ancient settlements beneath jungle canopy cities, roads and agricultural systems once thought impossible. These discoveries don't prove El Dorado existed, but they reveal something just as important. The Americas were never empty. They were never waiting to be claimed. Entire civilizations thrived and collapsed long before European arrival, without gold defining their worth. And that may be the final truth El Dorado offers. Every era creates its own version of the myth, a promise of infinite reward, a shortcut to power, a dream that excuses destruction in the name of destiny. The conquistadors searched the jungle believing paradise lay just beyond the next river, but El Dorado was never there. It lived in the human mind, in the belief that some prize is worth abandoning morality, reason, and compassion. It survives because we keep inventing it under new names, chasing it across new frontiers, convinced that fulfillment lies somewhere just out of reach. Some cities are lost to time. Others were never meant to exist. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed traveling with us into the shadows of the past, if this story sparked your curiosity, make sure to like and subscribe to Codex of Legends for more hidden histories, forgotten worlds, and myths that refuse to die. Until next time, remember, some truths are found not in treasure, but in the stories we choose to believe.